Hello, everybody. My name is Gary Gomes. I'm here to talk with you about Vedic astrology, world events, and how the two interact, and also about your individual charts for this week based upon your sun sign. Uh, as always, you can contact me. You're welcome to subscribe. Please do. Uh, and like and comment. And if you want to get notified of when the next video is up, just press the bell button. That's one thing I've almost never said, but press the bell button and you'll be notified of when the next video is up. Okay? So I just want to talk today a little bit about what's going on in the United States, in particular connected with Venezuela and China as part of the presentation. And also, but I promise not to spend a lot of time on that. It's really I don't feel qualified. Again, I'm not avoiding the topic, but I really need to do a lot more research on on the astrology of the Middle East before I can comment on what's happening out there. I'm not avoiding the subject. I just I just want to be better informed before I give you my opinion. So so basically, let's start by looking at the chart for today, which is October 19th, 2025. By the way, if you do want to contact me for readings or for lessons, I can be reached at 508 or at garygomesg@gmail.com. Some folks have been asking me if I, I'm interested in giving group classes and also when I'm going to write. And the writing is essentially, I've been writing on and off for about the past whew, 30 years with interruptions. So uh, it's really a matter, as I've said many times before, it's really a matter of organizing things and making sure I can find the right time to do it. But okay, so I have the China chart up first. I didn't want to have that up first, so let me just pull out of that and go to a now chart. Okay, so but basically, if you be interested in group classes, please do let me know. I probably will need a certain number of individuals before I can start, but a lot of my colleagues have been doing those for years. I've tended towards I've tended to have more success with individual tutoring sessions. You get more one-on-one attention from me, and I can ascertain where the person is astrologically or in terms of their knowledge base. But sometimes group activities can actually work better together. You can springboard off each other and get a good idea of what you know and what you don't know. And sometimes group assignments can be useful as well. So, and it'll force me to organize my material better if I'm honest. So, and I do have some differences of, of opinion from some mainline astrologers. I'm not radically different, but I do have some what I would call special twists and tweaks that I account for that have seemed to have brought me a great deal of um, or a certain degree of success in predictions, and essentially I'm what I would call an eclectic astrologer. That is, I'll look at different teachers and different examples and try to take what I consider to be the best or the most accurate observations from those different systems. And I'll sort of synthesize them into something a little bit different. So it's, you know, I'm not saying everybody does that to a certain extent, but I don't really, I'm not so much interested in improving the classical text correct or improving my teachers correct. I'm more interested in finding in in refining the knowledge base and finding techniques that seem to work consistently. So that's not, so these are folks who have devoted their lives to Vedic astrology, have written extensively about it. But you can always, there's always room for just a little bit of an improvement. So having said that, if you want to contact me, you can text me through either WhatsApp or my cell phone number, and that's 508-525-0001, or at Gary Gomes G at gmail.com. That's my email address. So the major thing we have on the chart happening today, this is the now chart for New Bedford, Massachusetts, is so the significant thing I want to bring your attention to this past week is that Jupiter's finally transited into Cancer. So that will make things flow a little bit more smoothly, a little bit more traditionally, a little bit more honestly. I think one of the things that happens when you have a chart like this is the transit of Jupiter into Cancer is considered universally to be a good thing. Uh, Jupiter, if you look at the main chart and the Navamsha chart, Jupiter is in what's called Vargotama. That is, it's in its exaltation sign in both these charts. That's considered to be very good. But the only problem with this particular transition is Jupiter's at very low degree. So um, it's almost like an old man, Jupiter, if you want to use that expression. So it's essentially it's just barely crossed into the borderlands. It's not really. It's just over the border of Canada, let's say, or over the border of the United States. It's just like maybe 1 mile in, and and essentially even though it's outside of Gemini's jurisdiction, it will still have some Gemini traits to it. It's in a nakshatra ruled by Jupiter Punarvasu, which is very um, traditionally minded. It's in a sign which is very traditionally minded. Jupiter's in Cancer. So for those of you who are hoping for a more, um, I'm just trying to think of the right term, a shift to um, more radical, or not more radical, more liberal policies, you're probably going to be disappointed by this transit because this particular transit it really builds up uh, traditional values. And it won't stay in this sign for very long. So it's only going to stay in this sign for a few. So this is some in some ways, the way that transits between signs work. So this is going to stay in this sign, and around the end of November, December, it'll start to go retrograde again. So it'll start to move backwards right before it hits, just a few degrees before it hits its maximum exaltation. So essentially, you will see a backward movement into Gemini, and that'll last really through most of the winter and the summertime. Um, and then Jupiter will finally move back into Cancer, where it'll stay for roughly a year. So this particular transit is will give you like a sign of a return to a more traditional society, but it will be a little bit weak. So what does that mean? Well, essentially, uh, basically, this is more of a return to what we would call traditional values or traditional societal values. So that would mean that there would be more interest in conventional schooling, in conventional economics, in conventional thought patterns. So, so Jupiter, at least from my experience, is more concerned with trying to um, with, with what they call a return to normalcy. So essentially, this particular period is good, and it will also introduce a period of some brief prosperity and growth, uh, but also it'll flip back into Gemini by the end of the year. So you'll have these radical new inventions, especially like things like AI picking up steam again around the end of the year. I'll talk extensively next week about AI, crypto, and things like that, just because I think that's an important discussion for us to have, and also pharmaceutical industries. But so Jupiter is going to make us go back to a more um, tr traditional system. Maybe it may breed more compromise politically. I'm hoping. But again, the United States is in a Rahu major planetary period. It's not really designed for that. So Rahu becomes kind of the most important planet for the United States right now. And Rahu's over the United States moon sign. I'll show you that in a few minutes. But overall, basically, uh, the other thing is, so there'll be more of an interest in a return to traditional values. Venus goes, and after that, after 2020, let's say after 2027, you'll start to see it flip more towards a solidification of power. But after that, I think you'll start to see it start to break up and get a little bit more liberal again, get a little bit more unconventional again, because Jupiter will have passed its maximum exaltation by the end of next year. So, so essentially, this Moon Venus conjunction over here, typically that's a good pattern for loyalty and relationships. The only issue that this brings is that because Venus is debilitated and aspected by Saturn, it tends to make people a little bit tied down in relationships, or relationships will feel dull or confining, and will be very critical of relationship partners during this particular period, and also business partners. Okay. So this doesn't mean you should go out and get a divorce right now. Just I would wait at least until Venus moves into Libra, which will be within about a few short weeks, within about 3 to 4 weeks. And you'll see a change in your temperament. But this is also stopping people from buying luxury goods. It's also what put the stamp. So Venus rules over a variety of things in astrology, and one of the things that a lot of the most astrologers won't mention is that it rules over computers or computer chips. Okay, so it's really so Venus is connected with life. It's connected with silicon. It's connected with quartz, etc. That particular mineral, and also is connected very strongly because Venus is a math-based planet. It's connected very strongly um, with things that make math calculations easier. So Venus in this particular sign will tend to restrict chip making or chip availability or the availability of commercial or car-based goods. So if you've been following the news in recently, China just announced it was suspending um, precious mineral uh, imports to the United States, and the United States has reciprocated by placing a 100% tariff on Chinese goods. And um, also, this is affecting the car industry or the automobile industry in Europe as well. So these combinations are kind of interesting when you see them astrologically forecast. Now, I don't think this particular boycott will last long, and I'll tell you why. Uh, uh, when we go to China's chart, but basically this will this is being done for political reasons. It's being done for reasons of power because Mars. Look at Mars and Mercury right on top of each other. So that explains why the heck I've been so nervous about doing this broadcast today. Mars and Mercury. So Mercury's defeating Mars in planetary war. So if a planet is within 1 degree of each other, Mercury is essentially frightening Mars. So Mars is a planet of logic. It's also a planet of military activity, but it's being controlled to a certain extent by Mercury. So the communication channels are being flowed, but it also creates a certain amount of fear and also a lot of fear on the part of governments that they want to be in control of things. So this is a weak sun, so your confidence may be a little bit shot, or you may feel a little bit more, as one of my colleagues indicated, you may feel a little bit more tired than normal uh, during the new moon. It was mainly, so that was over the past couple of days, but it was mainly that combination of Sun, Mars, and Mercury. Also, keep in mind, you're going to find yourself very impatient with people finding directions or finding instructions on how to do things. That's going to affect everybody. A lot of those obstacles will be gone within about a day or 2 days, okay, towards getting projects done because Mars will be winning planetary war with Mercury, okay? So that will allow you to complete projects or allow you to move forward. But the Mercury Mars is making it difficult, number one, for people to tell the truth about things, but number two, for people to progress in their plans. Um, the one combination that I'm a little bit worried about isn't the Saturn aspect on Venus because I think that will be over within about 3 weeks. I don't think you're going to see any kind of a catastrophic crash or economic downturn. But the one thing I am concerned about is Jupiter in Cancer because at least from my observations, that's a time when the United States tends to get involved in conflicts, in wars. And the other thing, which is a bit of a of an of an encouraging factor, is the United States gained property during its Rahu Mahadasha, gained independence during its first Rahu Mahadasha, which started in 1775. The second Rahu Mahadasha started around 1795, and that was an expansionary period for the United States as well. So that was the Spanish-American War, the Philippines, taking over a lot of Spanish possessions. And we're in a third Rahu Mahadasha right now. So naturally juiced the United States up to expand territory. Okay, so so essentially, and like I said, the trigger points for conflicts or for what I would call unjustified conflicts tend to come when Jupiter is entering Cancer. So I'm not a big expansionist, okay, personally. Um, but this seems to be the pattern I've seen the United States essentially follow through on over the past few decades. So Jupiter in Cancer tends to make us a little bit more expansionistic, a little bit more patriotic, a little bit more willing to impose our wills on other countries. So that's something that does concern me. So hopefully we can avoid that, but the current trends don't seem to be supporting that. So this combination is just be patient with people. You're going to be a bit short-tempered this week. I understand that, and you're going to be uh, it will reveal a lot of things that have been hidden from you because Mercury's hiding Mars or Mercury's defeating Mars. And Mercury's basically, I would say it's a discriminative planet, if I'm saying that correctly, but it also does tend to cover up facts. Mars is very straight and very direct and very uh, not necessarily honest, but it's very direct and very strategic. So there will be some. So these two planets will roughly stay together for the next couple of months. So this is not a good time for the United States in terms of foreign conflicts, um, or in terms of restraining itself in foreign conflicts. So it's just a heads up as far as that goes. In terms of your personal life, this particular combination, if you've been wanting to say something to somebody for a long time, this week is the time to say it. It doesn't necessarily mean they're bad people or that you're a coward, but you've been more willing to make excuses for people. Excuse me. My voice has been buggy for a couple of days. Please forgive me. I'm just getting over. Um, I was talking a lot yesterday, so that's really what this is. Uh, this is a residual effect from that. So, so essentially, Jupiter right now isn't aspecting Mars and Mercury within a couple of weeks. It will be. That will make it easier for the United States to take more aggressive action. Okay. It will be also easier for other countries to take more aggressive action. Okay. So that's what I find interesting. So in terms of the world around us, you'll find people jealous or anxious about new ideas. Uh, More distrusting of institutions. That's kind of of a theme over the next couple of years. Uh, so you'll see a pressure to break uh, ranks with tradition. So this is why you're seeing a lot of um, both activism in the Democratic Party, but also um, what's happening as Saturn moves towards Aries. The generational divide in the Democratic Party will become more obvious. Also, keep something in mind. Some Republicans are populists as well. And, and so Jupiter's aspecting that Saturn. Some Republicans are getting a little bit aggravated that the populist promises that they endorsed aren't being adhered to. So it's, so it isn't just the Democrats, although the Democratic schism, at least to my eyes, is more obvious. And I and there's more pressure for the party to go um, further left than there is for it to stay where it was. Now that may balance itself out by the end of November. We'll see what happens there. But basically, that's Saturn retrograde. And again, I use Saturn for the Democratic Party, but even in terms of traditional craftsmen or traditional ways of doing things or farming or things like that, there's um, even in terms of pharmaceuticals, so we're seeing a lot of questions being raised about pharmaceuticals from the current government. And I'm not saying they're right. I'm just saying this is the astrological cause of it. Uh, but I mean, is there's always room for more research, isn't there? So I think when we stop researching and stop reconsidering and stop and act like the science has been established, that's when we stop learning. Okay, that's when we stop moving forward, uh, and it becomes dogma as opposed to science. So that's just my personal belief. I'm not asking you to aspire to that. But basically, right now, so I don't see anything really dangerous happening for at least another couple of weeks in terms of aggressive action. Uh, and Mercury will enter this sign for a little bit ahead of Mars, but not that much ahead because they're so close together. And this will be a lot of what I would call underground activity happening. And, so a lot of spy activity happening. Also, Jupiter heading towards Cancer will mean you'll see a lot more interest in uh, prosecuting, uh, prosecution uh, in returning legal systems to what they once were, those kinds of things. So legal systems will become a little bit more, um, a little bit less, trying to think of the right word, a little less ideologically and non-traditionally biased and a bit more traditionally biased. There'll be a flip back in January, but I think you'll start to see more firming up of tradition. Now again, for those of you who don't like the direction that's happening right now, you do have there is a chance that the first 6 months of 2026 will roll that back a bit. Okay, but it's baked in throughout the end of 2026, especially after the midpoints in 2026 and throughout most of 2027. Okay, so it will really start to liberalize a bit more around 2027 to 2028. Okay. The other thing is, at least from the chart, so if we're talking about economy, now we have to look at other parts of the world chart. The economy looks pretty sound. There may be a little bit of a panic because of Rahu approaching uh, the moon in the U.S. chart, but that's really not going to be significant. That's more of a panic than it is an absolute downturn. Okay. So, uh, but again, I am cautious overall. So I realize I'm a bit all over the place today, but I am cautious overall about new technologies and new procedures and what I would call fat investing. And what I mean by fat investing is you get on board, so you get interested in these new technologies, which tend to promise a lot, like AI and cryptocurrency, and it turns into a speculative um, mess. And so usually people have to make and lose a lot of money before things stabilize. So I'm not saying these aren't good products. I'm saying the enthusiasm is a little bit too high right now. Okay. And with that Jupiter moving into Cancer, it'll actually become higher because Jupiter does encourage investment. So, K2's in Leo, again, danger to kings all around the world, kings, queens, elected officials all the way around the world. We've seen uh, the German Prime Minister uh, being uh, running into trouble. We've seen the French Prime Minister running into trouble. We've seen the British Prime Minister running into trouble. Spain has just had major outbreaks or major demonstrations. Italy is talking about leaving the European Union, um, and Japan just transitioned. The Chinese government doesn't look in danger of collapse, but we'll look at China in a few minutes and see how much that's going to um, affect it. But now I want to go. So overall, this week, the general advice for this week is stay stable. Don't take a lot of risks with investments. Uh, Move forcefully forward in terms of your daily work. Uh, Investigate things. Really check things out before you put any effort into anything. Okay, because Jupiter in the eighth house rewards investigation. K2's in the ninth house. You can't trust conventional sources of luck to come through for you at this particular time. You'll have to roll the dice and try it. Don't get involved in any new romantic relationships, and uh, watch out for people, especially friends, misrepresenting things to you. Okay? So I don't like to make people leery of friends, but the culture is kind of difficult now. Okay, so let's go. So the first birth chart I want to look at was Venezuela, and then we'll look at Maduro's birth chart. And this was taken for July 5th, 1811, 3 p.m. in Caracas, Venezuela. Um, this is their chart. Now, the interesting thing about Venezuela is they had a relative boom up until I would say around 10 years ago. Okay. So they were in a Saturn Mahadasha when the boom started, which is not uncommon. Okay. That's because Saturn essentially, okay, so let's go to 2015. Okay. So Saturn essentially, um, so let's see what this does. Okay. So Saturn will essentially bring money into the country. However, one of the problems you run into is you'll see an expansion of the government between 2013 and 2016, but all of a sudden a crash in the government. Why? Well, because essentially what's happening right now is you have what's called an eighth house sun. Okay, so sun's in the eighth house, which can give sudden declines or toxic problems or chronic problems, especially in leadership. Okay, so Venezuela has had a checkered past in terms of its leadership. It didn't just start with Maduro. It started long before that. But basically, uh, at least from this chart, this Saturn Sun subperiod, Saturn is in the second house of finances. Eighth house is Sun is in the eighth house of chronic problems or chronic disappointment. So between 2016 and 2017, you would have seen a decline, a rather rapid decline in Venezuela. And those of you who know Venezuelan history better than I do, please feel free to correct me. But this is what should have happened. And see now, date. Let's move forward a little bit. Then you had a moon period in 2017 to 2018, very short subperiod. Moon is in the second house. It doesn't do well when it's in conjunction with Saturn. That's what I've seen in a lot of charts. Saturn moon conjunction. So the moon helps Saturn, Saturn doesn't help the moon. Okay? So it's a benefic planet will help a malefic planet. The moon is a benefic planet. Saturn is a malefic planet. So Saturn is helped by the moon. Saturn will not help the moon. Okay? So this period would have given, I would say, some continued economic hardship. Mars is in the first house in Scorpio, a slight reversal of fortune. So between 2018 and 2020, maybe an increase, but also some problems with elections because Mars rules the sixth house in this chart. Let's see now. And Jupiter aspects Mars, so it makes it easy to um, foil elections or put your candidate of choice in. 2020, you're in a Saturn Rahu subperiod. Rahu would give a sort of an eminence to Venezuela. And I think, at least from this chart, between January 16th to November 2022, it would have also caused, I would say, a financial panic because Rahu's in Leo, and Leo's disposited to the eighth house. So we've heard about the inflation in Venezuela person during a Jupiter subperiod because Jupiter's aspecting Mars that causes. So Jupiter expands things. That's sort of like a hidden attribute of Jupiter. So Jupiter's a benevolent planet. It's a good planet, but it does expand things. Now, since June 4th of 2025, Venezuela has been in the Mercury Mahadasha. Now, so you see over here, and right now it's in uh, Mercury subperiod. So this will increase hidden enemies or problems with foreign powers. And the reason I'm saying this is because this rules the 11th house of friends, but it also rules the 8th house of hidden enemies. So, or chronic problems. So it's possible you'll see a strike, and there has been more aggressive action taken since October 9th. After November 29th, it's possible you'll see a strike, a direct strike against Venezuela. Um, Again, I hope I'm wrong about that. I'm not really particularly invested in seeing that happen. And I like to look at it from the perspective of the people in the country rather than the United States perspective. But yeah, it looks like there'll be a complete change in government uh, by November 3rd of 2027. Okay, so that doesn't necessarily make me happy. It just indicates it's sort of inevitable, at least from the chart. Now, again, this is something I hope I'm wrong about because I really don't want to see the United States get involved in another um, governmental takeover, which can cause more problems than it helps. But uh, and let's look at China. Oh, and let me look at Maduro's chart. Hold on a second. I did have Maduro's chart. Nicolas. Maybe I can do it this way. Maybe I can take the easy way out. There it is. That's so easy. Wow. I'm impressed. Okay. So, all right. So this is the current president. He's a Gemini rising. He's the Mahadashas are definitely off. And he's in a Mercury Mahadasha. So definitely some political enemies happening right now. He's had uh so the Lord of his first house, which is Mercury, so Mercury rules Gemini, is in the sixth house of enemies. Okay. And this is a really, so this is the kind of a combustion that I can't ignore. So essentially, whenever a planet sits too close to the sun, it's considered combust. This is actually um, a special kind of combustion. Um, and I'm trying to remember the name of it, but essentially, it's if a planet with I believe it's called a Kazemi, Al-Kazemi conjunction. And that Mercury is enlivened by the sun. But the sun's, so this may give him some luck back in, back between June of 2024 and May 1st of 2025. However, he's in a moon subperiod right now. And that moon is in the 12th house from the sun. So it's a definite threat to his power. There's a definite threat to him uh, being thrown out of office. Now, whether or not that happens or not, um, that's really almost impossible to say. But uh, with that Mercury Moon subperiod, um, he's Mars. I'm just looking at Mars. He's maybe got a year left in power, so we'll see uh, from what happens down the road. Okay, so. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that there won't be another socialist government in Venezuela, but his day, at least to me, his days look like they're numbered uh, in power. Now, again, political predictions are really difficult. I'm not making difficult. So if something's a little bit off in this chart, um, you know, I can't, I can't say that he'll leave office, but it certainly looks like at the very least a difficult year for him, and a difficult year for him to maintain control. China, let's look at China, and then we'll look at India, and then we'll go back. Okay, so China is in a Mercury subperiod, or it's in a Mercury Mahadasha, excuse me. So China is in a Mercury moon Mahadasha. So right now, at least for the next uh, year or so, it looks like it might make a bit of a comeback. But one problem with Mercury and Moon as planets is they tend to be relatively unstable. So at least from the chart. So this Mahadasha, Mercury is exalted in China's chart. That's very good for China. Sun is at around 14 degrees. My sun and my Mercury are close to these degrees, so I should have a lot of sympathy for China. But the moon is over here is, um, so like I said, from experience, I know Mercury tends to um, cause problems during its Mahadasha because it changes signs so much. It's really uh, very susceptible, and the recent actions it's taken seem to be because of the Mercury-Mars conjunction in the chart. Okay, so I'm not saying that they're not going to be successful in what they're trying to do, but I'm also saying around December 6th, they'll hit kind of an economic rough patch. And by February of next year, I think at the latest, they'll start to moderate their position. Um, maybe even by November 6th, they'll start to moderate their position. So it looks like so they're trying to do um, take a tough stance right now, especially with Europe and especially with the United States. But I don't know if it's going to last all that long. And it's also because Saturn's aspecting Mercury right now. Believe it or not, this activity will hurt China more than it will the United States, contrary to what you're seeing some people saying. Let's see now, and I want to look at India's chart just quickly. Oh, come on. Sorry, folks. And I'll look at some other countries next week. Yeah, so this isn't a precise Indian chart. Uh, that's definitely not a precise Indian chart. Let's see now. All right, so this is at least what I have for an Indian chart right now. I'm going to double check this. Uh, but India right now is in a time of accelerated progress because of Rahu being in the eighth house. Rahu is exalted in this chart. It's in a Jupiter subperiod, so uh, it's growing by leaps and bounds, but it is facing some internal problems up until October 23rd. After October 23rd, you will see the economy improve and maybe settle down. After March 14th, I think you're going to see a change in leadership. So this is what I said last week. But the economy in India should continue to improve through January 19th of 2027 with some bumps in it. And but I think next month you'll actually see an improvement in India within about 3 weeks, an improvement in India overall. But the period that India really has to watch out for, I think, is this Rahu subperiod next September, because that can indicate economic disruption and some problems. There is um, a potential for India to move into rare earth minerals or into new investment markets during this particular point in time. But again, it looks a little bit unstable to me. And the Saturn subperiod up until 2029, Saturn's in India's 10th house. That should be a period I would say, rapid expansion for India in terms of economic growth. Okay, so Saturn isn't always a bad planet in terms of the economy of the country. So essentially essentially a lot I've seen a lot of countries grow very rapidly during Saturn subperiods. Last but not least, or maybe least in your eyes, I don't know how you feel. United States. Okay, so United States chart. I know there are several different charts of the United States, but they all tend to say pretty much the same thing. So right now, the United States is in a Rahu Mercury Jupiter subperiod. So it's trying negotiation. It's trying to, but it's getting a little bit impatient. Okay, this Rahu subperiod is kind of bringing out the expansion. It's also revealing a lot of what I would call the scandals connected with the United States right now. Okay, that'll be over by November 3rd. Okay, so essentially what will happen by November 3rd is the United States will start focusing on its own economy, on its own interests and its own wishes, and start to take action towards its goals. So this doesn't mean dictatorship. Saturn aspects all these planets in the United States chart. Uh, you're not, again, you're not in a dictatorship if you can still speak out against the president, if you can still speak out against the party in power, that's not a fascist dictatorship. I hate to disillusion you folks out there. Uh, there are certain things which would uh, make people think that, but again, there are remedies which are not closed off to you. Okay, so again, it's a really selective judgment that a lot of people are making right now. But I think after November 3rd, the United States will start to get serious about its economy and serious about um, the poorer people in the country. Okay, so that's optimistic. Okay, we spoke last time about the continuing resolution in Congress. Um, we'll see what happens this week. I think October 18th was the earliest date I picked for the continuing resolution to be adopted. If it doesn't take place this week, the next earliest date would be November 3rd, and the next earliest date would be November 26th. Okay. So let's go back to the main chart and look at your individual signs. Okay, sorry I spent so much time on politics. All right, so October 19th. So for Aries, Aries has a really nice chart this month. Jupiter's in the fourth house. That's very good for expansion of wealth, expansion of income, and good luck. A little bit heavy on the finances, though, on the financial expenditures. K2's in the fifth house. It's will give some problems with kids. Still that'll continue for about another year. And Venus and Moon are in the sixth house. Some problems with medicine and with medical practitioners. Mars and Sun are in the seventh house, along with Mercury. So you'll have to be careful about trusting relationship partners. And Rahu is in the 11th house. So some potential gains, but again, a lot of expenses for Aries. That's April 15th to May 15th. Taurus starts from May 15th to June 15th. I'm probably going to go through these more quickly than I normally do. Taurus has its Lord in the fifth house, so there'll be a lot of focus on financial accumulation, and also a lot of focus on trying to make sure that um, there's some growth, but it'll be slow or slowed down by Saturn aspecting Venus and the Moon. For the third house, ruler is our aspirations, and it's an aspiration to get rid of obstacles. Jupiter sits in the third house, so a lot of people with this sign will be very polite and very thoughtful. K2 sits in the fourth house. Some family problems are indicated. That's corroborated by Venus and Moon in the fifth house, aspected by Saturn. Uh, some problems with illnesses for the sign, unfortunately. Rahu sits in the 10th house, so some career dissatisfaction, but also some slow growth financially. By the end of November, there'll be a lot of obstacles removed there. For Gemini has June 15th to July 15th. Gemini's Lord is in the fifth house, so there should be some improved relations with children, although children will still be lying to you. And also, they'll still be involved with bad friends. But Jupiter's in the second house. There should be some economic expansion, some financial expansion. K2 is in the third house. There's a lot more courage, at least connected with this sign. Some unwanted romantic involvement or interest will occur for this sign. So some people that the sign is really not interested in will express romantic interest in them. One, two, three, four, five. The fifth house has, so we already spoken about the fifth house in terms of problems with kids and problems with love affairs. Seventh house Lord is Jupiter. Jupiter is in the second house, so it should give some financial improvement, mainly through marriage partners. Rahu is in the ninth house. You will get some help from the government, but it won't be without some frustration. Saturn's in the 10th house, good for career. So even if you're not getting a lot of career activity right now, keep at it. It'll pay off you by the end of November. For Cancer, Cancer is between July 15th and August 15th. This is a very good placement to have Jupiter in Cancer in the first house. Gives increased ability to overcome enemies and increased financial luck. And K2 is in the second house, so there will be some problems with speech or being understood by people. Uh, Venus and Moon are in the third house. This is overall a good time to um, avoid romantic relationships. There may be strong desire to get involved in those, but stay away from them. Um, Fights or arguments at home over what people said or what people did, maybe health problems to mother. And Rahu's in the eighth house. Again, hidden enemies, but again, um, don't be alarmed at this because this is a natural part of life. This is something everybody has some kind of person that doesn't like them. Okay, that's sort of like uh, a cosmic rule. It's not really that you look for enemies. You may not. It helps if you don't dislike or fear them, because essentially, the more you fear things like this, the more energy they draw from you, and the more vulnerable you become. So don't be afraid of them. Just be cautious. Saturn's in the ninth house. If Saturn's in the ninth house, it indicates slow but steady progress towards one's goals. And that's about it for Cancer. For Leo, this is August 15th through September 15th. K2's in the first house, can give unexpected twists or turns in luck. So this is an interesting combination because it does constitute a kind of a Raj Yoga in the chart, um, especially in terms of the sun being placed in the same sign with the Raj Yoga Karaka planet and the planet connected with gains in the third house. So essentially, there may be a misperception as to what this sign is doing, and it may be viewed as being mean or unfair, but basically, after within about 3 weeks, a lot of the things that this sign is pressing for will come through. The other thing is, but again, some financial upsets, some damage to public reputation because of K2 in the first. Uh, for but Mars is well placed by sign. Mars does really well in the third house. Sun, although debilitated, does well in the third house. And a lot of people will feel confidence levels at kind of a low level this month, at least for the next uh, 4 weeks because the sun's debilitated by placement. Um, so just be aware of that. Just try to do things to make yourself feel better about yourself or about your surroundings. Uh, Rahu's in the seventh house. It can make relationship partners seem a little bit exotic or unapproachable, also a little bit tough to please. Saturn's in the eighth house. People who um, not gotten very much through their effort will fight you or resist you. That'll be the background. And Jupiter's in the 12th house. That's actually good for gains overseas. Okay. For Virgo, that's from September 15th through October 15th. You have Venus Moon conjunction. Now, this is one of the paradoxes of Indian astrology because basically Venus is a Raj Yoga Karaka planet for this sign, which means it's a special luck bringer for this rising sign. So its placement in the first house is not bad, but the pleasure that Venus derives from life, or the sense of happiness that Venus derives from life, gets a little bit um, thwarted by that combination. As a matter of fact, I will just bring it back to myself. You heard me at the beginning a little bit shaky, a little bit uncertain about myself. That's the uh, Venus in Virgo and the Sun in Libra acting in my chart. So so essentially, this particular combination is not bad. It should bring some financial gains to individuals, and all these combinations of planets in the second house should bring some financial gains, but there's also fear of losses or fear of betrayal, at least from the chart. Um, we have Rahu in the sixth house. It can give prolonged health issues, especially connected with the stomach or the intestines. Saturn's in the seventh house. Some kidney problems are indicated by that placement. But also it can indicate problems with wife or relationship partner. Can be anything from health to just bad attitude. Jupiter's in the 11th house. That's good for financial gains or uh, for growth and also for relationship opportunities, but not a particularly good time to pursue them. But it can't bring new friends in, so that's the good thing about it. Um, so let's wrap it up and you'll have to watch out for theft because of K2 in the 12th house. For Libra has, this is October 15th through November 15th, or Libra moon or ascendant. And all the other signs I gave you were for moon sign or ascendant. Uh, we have Sun as Lord of the 11th house in the first house, Mars as Lord of the second and seventh in the first house, Mercury as Lord of the ninth in the first house. So this is overall a good combination for this planet. It's a little bit interfered with because the thoughts turn to loss because the Lord of the first house is in the 12th house. But this can also be a good time to save money or to not foolishly expend money. Okay, so that's a good thing. That'll restrict you a little bit, especially with the Saturn aspect on the 12th. Um, let's see now. Rahu is in the fifth house, so it should give you increased access to new inventions or new ideas. Saturn is in the sixth, and also friends from other countries or spiritual friends. Saturn's in the sixth house, good for overcoming enemies or obstacles due to regular practice and regular effort. And Jupiter's in the 10th house of career, so career life should expand over the next couple of months. Okay. K2 will give some untrustworthy or critical friends, at least from this chart. Yeah. So again, people who had say loved what you did before are going to question you about certain other things. So they'll be more critical of you. It isn't necessarily that they dislike you, but they are expecting you to act in a different way, or they'll be more attuned to editing or uh, modifying your work. For Scorpio, this will be November 15th through December 15th. Jupiter sits in the ninth house. That's a very good placement for the sign. Aspects the first, aspects the fifth house in the chart. Really, really good. Good for luck, good for financial growth, although the Lord of the first house sits in the 12th, along with Sun and career house Lord, and Mercury house of gains Lord. So even though it will be overall a lucky month for Scorpio, there will be some financial losses or some financial problems. For or at least some obligations, some short-term obligations. That'll pass within about, I would say, within about uh, 2 weeks at the outside. Um, for Rahu sits in the fourth house, there'll still be domestic disruption. Saturn sits in the fifth house, still some disappointments with children, but again, this isn't as bad as it has been. And the saving grace of this chart is really Jupiter in the ninth house, and also Venus and Moon in the 11th house, although Venus isn't a particularly good planet for this rising sign. This actually gives the ability to bring money in, especially from a relationship partner and also from uh, work efforts. So this is not a bad placement at all. This is not a chart. It's just a heavy expenditure pattern. It's going to continue for another 2 weeks or so. For Sagittarius, this is December 15th through January 15th. We have Rahu in the third house. Rahu in the third house makes this sign courageous. Saturn in the fourth house makes it uh, very stubborn. But again, it can cause some problems at home. Jupiter's in the eighth, unexpected gains of cash, especially from business partnerships. K2's in the ninth house. Be careful about crossing swords with the government or crossing swords with superiors. Don't engage in arguments. Um, Venus is in the 10th house. This isn't a bad placement. It'll make work life a little bit better. It'll be even better within about 3 weeks. And good combination, good cluster for financial gains for Sagittarius this month or this week as well. Sorry, not this month, this week as well. Let's see now, Capricorn. Capricorn has Saturn in the third house. The Lord is Sat, and Capricorn is January 15th through February 15th. Excuse me. Yeah, time doesn't move backwards, so let's make that clear. Uh, so Saturn, Lord is in the third house, gives the sign a lot of persistence, a lot of push. Again, Rahu in the second makes it a little bit dissatisfied with the amount of money it's making, but it's probably doing pretty well compared to the other signs. Jupiter's in the sixth house, so this will make it um, focus more on ethics and more on good behavior. It'll think more about its actions. Um, K2's in the seventh house. Strange relationship problems. Relationship partners will seem distant or detached. Sometimes sometimes Aquarians will have the potential for separation from their partners, either through divorce or a separation. But again, that could happen at any time during this year. It's not really. Um, oh, I'm sorry. I was looking at Capricorn. My apologies. So so Jupiter's in the seventh house. That's good for gains through relationship partners. K2's in the eighth house. A lot of research, a lot of unexpected blows in terms of financial um, investments. So just be aware of that. Venus and Moon are in the ninth house. That Venus is considered to be one of the best planets for Capricorn. And it's in conjunction with the Lord of the seventh house. So that will give financial gains to the sign. And this combination over here, this cluster of planets in Libra, should be very good for career life for this sign. So overall, not a bad chart for Capricorn. For Aquarius, a lot of interest in new and exotic ideas. Okay, so new technologies, new ways of doing things. K2's in the seventh house. It's in Leo. So again, some disruption. So there'll be some disruption in the power structure at home with this combination. Rahu in the first, but again, Rahu and Ketu are in relatively favorable signs. So it should be for the better. Saturn is in the second house. This indicates slow but steady accumulation of growth. Um, Jupiter sits in the sixth house. Some ethical dilemmas for the sign this month. K2 sits in the seventh house. Again, as I was trying to say before with Capricorn. And by the way, Aquarius is February 15th to March 15th. What I was trying to say with Capricorn, this can give some threats of disruptions of marital life or relationship life for this sign over the next couple of over the next year or so. But again, a lot of people can write out this transit. They'll just be aware that they're going to have disagreements with their spouse or their relationship partner or their business partners. This is in the eighth house. Some good returns on investments from unexpected sources. Sun, Mars, Mercury in the ninth house, good for financial gains for this sign. And finally, the 11th house Lord is in the sixth. So profit, but not without hard work. For Pisces, I feel really sorry for Pisces because the chart's been a little bit rough for them over the past few months. But basically, we have Saturn in the first house. So this will make everything seem harder. Pisces will be um, not really isolated, but forced to rethink a lot of its positions. Venus and Moon are in the seventh house. Indicates uh, some potential for relationship partners, but you will end up with relationship partners who are difficult to deal with. Jupiter's in the fifth house. That's very good for elected children and also creative endeavors. Mars, Sun, and Mercury are in the eighth house. So some potential for gains, but also blockages because of the government or authority figures in terms of those gains. And finally, we get to the 12th house. We have Rahu in the 12th house. So if you find yourself excessively or obsessively doing anything, Pisces, try to focus your attention on something which will be constructive as opposed to something which will drain your resources. So that would be my suggestion to you. There are also remedies you can do, like mantras to Durga, and also other things you can do, like put statues of Saint Michael in the house, things like that. So those are like what I would call band-aid approaches, but you really have to change attitude, at least for this sign, in order to avoid heavy expenses. So let's look at the world map and then we'll be done. Okay, so that came up pretty easily this time. So the first thing that I'm seeing is um, a sun line going over Alaska combined with a Jupiter line. So there will be some um, legal issues in Alaska and Jupiter. The Mars Mercury line is passing through Western Canada, uh, sort of near Vancouver, but a little bit to the north, sort of like splitting this regional area right here. So essentially that, especially with the Rahu line there, that indicates some disruption in this part of Canada. Okay. And a lot of politics being played over here. And that's true because we have Saturn going up through the middle of the country. I've spoken a lot about the Alberta, Saskatchewan movement in Canada. Nobody really knows whether or not that will lead to a separation of those two states from Canada. Um, but we're also seeing similar lines happening in California, So scandal in California um, and disruption in Washington, Oregon, Northern California, all the way down, and also some kind of political scandal out there, and also some kind of depressing news for Idaho, Montana, Utah, Arizona. So this entire region over here uh, is looks like it's in kind of a depressed or upset state. Okay. There's a Moon Venus line running through Texas, uh, all the way from Montana down to Texas, down to Mexico. So since the Moon and Venus are, the Moon is okay, but Venus is not okay. This can indicate some water damage or some intense uh, unhappiness in that part of the world. Uh, the sun line is running through Michigan, let's see, Illinois, Kentucky, Tennessee, down through I believe that's Alabama, and down into Nicaragua, and that's essentially governmental force being applied to that part of the country, and it's also true in parts of Canada as well. There's a Mercury-Mars line running out of running around eastern Canada up into Greenland, and also being intersected by a Jupiter line. So, Mars-Mercury combinations. So this will affect the entire east coast of the United States. It'll affect Cuba. It'll affect Dominican Republic, Haiti, and Puerto Rico, and also Venezuela and Guyana, um, and down into Brazil, down into Bolivia, down into Argentina. So what that means in plain English is there will be lies or deceptions coming out of that part of the world. It doesn't necessarily mean those countries are generating those lies or deceptions, but just a lot of what I would call politicalization of that region of of the world. Um, and uh, Guyana is really is sort of a focal hotspot right now because of um, there are alleged threats of Venezuela threatening to invade. There is danger from a possible Trump or a possible U.S. Um, action. That looks more threatening right now, given this line right here. And also, it looks like there's some rebellion brewing uh, in Brazil, Bolivia, and down into Argentina. There's a Rahu line off the coast of Brazil, so that indicates some governmental scandal is in process near Brazil or on Brazil. And there are a lot of planetary lines running through Iceland, God Almighty. So change in government, uh, and God, there are a lot of lines running through it. Rahu, some panic. Saturn, some indication of economic problems. And also down the west coast of Africa, down by there's some threat of severe rains or severe weather. Um, there's a sun line running through France, sorry, through Spain, and also through Ireland. So Ireland just voted, I believe, to reject some of the European Union's guidelines for dealing with immigrant populations. which is interesting because they're still part of the EU. And there's a Mars and Mercury line, so there's a lot of politics going on in a lot of political shenanigans going on in England, France, and I would say in Northern Africa through uh, Algeria and Libya and down into Central African Republic and all the way down into uh, Eastern Africa. So just keep an eye on that part of the world because that's really going to be a lot of this stuff we focus on tends to be the Middle East and China because we have economic interests out there. But this is kind of a hot spot right now, all the way from Norway, all the way all through Western Europe here, and all the way through all the way through Africa. So this is kind of the hot spot for me, at least on this map. Um, yeah, so a lot of changes in governments, a lot of uh, riots or protests, just in general, and that's what's happened already, and I think it'll continue to happen. Let's see now. We have a Jupiter line going through uh, Scandinavia, essentially northern Scandinavia, down into Russia. It's not intersecting with Ukraine at all, but there is a Rahu line over here, so there is some potential for panic. But it looks like Russia is essentially taking a bit of a backseat right now. There's also a panic line running through um, Iraq, Iran, and into, I believe, is that Oman? I think that's Oman. And um, there's a Saturn line running through Afghanistan and Pakistan right now. So again, those countries are in really tough shape. There's a Moon Venus line running through um, Central Asia, just over India. India has uh, a lot of rain activity and also, I would say, some problems with justice systems in this part of the country. There's a Jupiter line running over China and over eastern India near Bengal. And that particular line indicates some uh, some some problems within the justice system. There is, but again, it should stabilize at least eastern India in the short term. Um, there's a sun line running through uh, Myanmar and China right now, especially Tibetan China and Mongolia, and also other lines. No, that's about it. So at least Vietnam and Cambodia and Thailand and Myanmar is in a little bit of trouble because it looks like there's going to be an attempt to either change the government or modify the government. Uh, there is a Mercury Mars line going through China. So as I said before, China is um, has decided to strike back basically at um, so in the United States, it was the fact the United States was charging it to dock its ships. So they've cut off um, rare earth, rare earths imports to the United States, and that's used in the manufacture of electronics and things like that. But I, there shouldn't be. I mean, I would assume most of the products that are designed for sale in the United States in Christmas have already been manufactured, unless I'm like terribly um, wrong in my estimation of when people stock up for Christmas. But I could be, but that will raise long-term prices, but there should be no reason you see short-term prices raised. But business is not really intended for your benefit; it's intended for the business owner's benefit. Borneo, and there is a Mars-Mercury line going through Borneo and Indonesia. So again, political crises, especially connected with deception, uh, in this part of the world. Okay. Uh, let's see now. So this is intended to frighten. Okay, so let's see now. There's a Rahu line going through Japan. Japan's in a little bit of a panic. Um, Papua New Guinea, excuse me. We see there's a Rahu line going through there, so there's some government trouble in Australia, and some political scandal, and in Papua New Guinea. And let's see what's some line going through New Zealand. So that's hitting and making that government a little bit more restrictive right now. So that's it for this week. Um, I hope that was uh, illuminating for you. If there's any way I can make these presentations more enjoyable or more exciting to you, please let me know. And I love you all. Thank you so much for watching. Happy Diwali is the Indian Festival of Lights Day, so we're in the middle of it. I believe it's the third day of Diwali, third or fourth day of Diwali. So happy Diwali to everyone, and I love you all, and thank you so much for watching. Please don't be shy. Communicate with me. I'd be happy to answer your questions. And if you're interested in group classes, please let me know, and I'll see if I can talk with you about pricing online in an independent conversation. Okay, I can't talk about prices on this channel. All right, so that's it, and we'll see you next week. And again, I love all of you. Thank you for making the channel I would say it's a great success, okay, because we've been working at this without conventional support or boosters or any of the YouTube, what I would call the YouTube tricks, and we're building up what I would consider to be a really dedicated and sincere following. So I appreciate that more than like huge numbers. Although eventually down the road, maybe we will get huge numbers. Okay? All right. Have a great week. Don't be afraid by all the changes. Number one, the difficult times rarely last, and they also present opportunities for you to avoid the craziness. Okay? All right. Have a great week, folks, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.